just want it. Can't get to myself, can't get to myself, can't get to myself, to myself, can't get to myself, can't get to myself, can't get to myself.
What's up troops, it's me TheTacticalBrit and I'm here today with a Titanfall 2 video. Now Titanfall 2 is an interesting title because I believe that the franchise as a whole has a lot of potential and can deliver some unique experiences. Now today I want to discuss exactly what the changes to Titanfall 2 have been, some of the design decisions, some of the choices that developers have made surrounding how the game works, and talk about how it's actually heading in the wrong direction. So let's start from the very beginning, and that is of course Titanfall 1. Now Titanfall 1 was a very successful title to an extent. It had a lot of potential, it had a lot of backdrop, it had quite a bit of character and story depth that people were quite interested in, and they found the lore to that very interesting, but it overall lost its pace and lost its community when eventually content became very bleak. The developers didn't really have enough guns, they didn't really have enough equipment in the game just to keep people interested and to keep things varied. And ultimately, people were just expecting Titanfall 2 to have everything that Titanfall 1 had, but include extra stuff, just have a metric ton of gear to unlock, a metric ton of customization, and that was pretty much the principal thing that people were focusing on. That's all they wanted out of Titanfall 2, and not much else, to be honest with you. Now, Titanfall 2 has in fact taken a very different direction from its predecessor, and its predecessor seems to have very little resemblance to the current title. Now, Titanfall 2 is a game that doesn't seem to be a Titanfall game. It more resembles Call of Duty, and I know that sounds harsh considering that Titanfall 1 was basically called Call of Duty with Titans, but it wasn't. It was a unique experience that was story driven on multiplayer, it had a good amount of backdrop and movement, and everybody enjoyed the game. And as the game progressively moved on, and as DLC and content released, the developers really listened to their community, and they actually built up a title which by the end of its life cycle was good fun to play and well respected within its own group of players and community. Now let's flash forward to Titanfall 2 and have a look at some of the key changes that they have made that really changed the overall feeling of Titanfall as a franchise. So first and foremost, the scarcity of Titans in the game. So first and foremost, AI. Now AI was a key part of Titanfall 1. It made things quite interesting because it felt as though alongside fighting other pilots and other players, you were actually kind of in a war. It was a big war that you were taking part in, and it added to the backdrop of the interesting factions that took place in the game. And now there is only a singular game mode that features AI, and that is Bounty Hunt, and it has replaced attrition, so attrition doesn't even exist in Titanfall 2, and it just seems to me that the entire concept of being part of a very big ongoing battle in a big open map with lots to move around and lots to kill has suddenly just faded away to pure player versus player combat, and that's okay, but the player versus player combat isn't up to scratch enough for that, which I will discuss in a little bit more depth later. Secondly, Titans. Titans were supposed to be a big menacing thing in Titanfall 1, and they really were. You didn't want to fuck with a Titan. Whereas in Titanfall 2, they last next to no time. Everybody's rocking giant ass launchers, everybody can jump on the back of a Titan and take it out quite easily, and bigger Titans that exist on the game at the moment really don't have a lot to them. At the moment, it's pretty clear that when there are multiple Titans on the field, they get taken out in maybe next to no time. And some Titans actually feature as a kill streak. It's not even a timed thing that you sequentially get across the game. It's something that you have to earn. And in many respects, if one game is getting an absolute landslide in one direction, that by no means balances anything. Moving on to the factions. Previously we had two different factions, which was the IMC and the Militia, or something along those lines in Titanfall 1. But they were actually quite interesting. They had their own stories, they had their own kind of storyline within the multiplayer, and although it wasn't, something that people kind of dived into a lot, it was nice to have. It was good to have that kind of sense of, this is my team, or this is who I'm representing. Whereas now it's just sort of two bland factions. It's like the 6-4 and some other group of guys who look exactly like the 6-4, but are badasses because they don't follow the rules. That's literally as far as the description goes, and you really just don't get that same sense of lore and interest that you did out of Titanfall 1. Now moving on to combat and gameplay, and this is an area I said that due to the lack of AI, Titanfall 2 just doesn't make sense, because it doesn't add up when it comes to player combat. Now, in Titanfall 1, player combat was quite good, and the reason it was good was because everything was rewarding players for traversing the map in a way that would benefit them. There were wall runs to do, there were things you could jump on, you could get around the back of opponents, and players who knew how to move around the map successfully were the players that could get the kills, and they were the players that would ultimately win the games and get the objectives. Now, what's changed in Titanfall 2 is that kind of element no longer exists, and it kind of has been swapped out for simple shooting versus shooting. They've tried balancing weapons in a sense that, you know, shooting is your main tool of use now, and it's no longer a backdrop to what previously was player movement. Before in Titanfall 1, it was player movement, then killing, and in Titanfall 2, it's killing and then player movement. And this has a lot to do with balancing, but it's just the general design of the game as well. Now, some of the maps I've played, including Boomtown and the other one that exists at the moment in the game, which I believe is called like Homebound or something, these maps don't feature a lot of wall running. They don't feature any kind of design that benefits the player for traversing the map in a specific way. There is a few rooftops, there is a couple of windows, and everybody just may as well use a grappling hook, because there is no benefit to jumping around onto the walls and running on them. There's no benefit to using wall runs and using player movement to your advantage. It's just about ziplining into the closest and best possible vantage point, playing slowly and shooting players who walk past. It's no longer a case of you are rewarded for moving quickly and having skill in your level of moving across the map. It's more a sense of, at the moment, that you have to be in a spot that is a spot that the game developers designed to be in, and you have to kill people there. And a good example of this is on Boomtown. There's this little bridge in the middle of the map, and there's houses opposite each side of the bridge. And effectively, nobody wall runs or anything, nobody does anything, they just stand on the opposite side of the roofs and shoot at each other. And there's no reward for skillful gameplay. Now, you'd like to think that if the skillful gameplay has somewhat been removed from the movement system, it would have been added to the combat system, and that simply isn't the case at the moment. And of course, this can be fixed with simple balancing and rejigging the weapons. Now, Titanfall 2 moves incredibly quickly. Because of the grappling hooks, because of players just darting around all over the place, players move fast, and it's very fast, and you need fast weapons. But what happens at the same token here is that we have fast time to kill. But the time to kill in some ranges is ridiculously quick. Now, in Titanfall 1, you had the ability to use your movement to get away from somebody shooting at you, or to get yourself into a spot where you had a decision to make. You had time to react, and you had time to use your skill to counteract somebody firing at you. But in Titanfall 2, that simply doesn't exist. And what makes it worse is the fact that weapons are incredibly unbalanced. At the moment, the time to kill is so incredibly quick that if you're even remotely at medium range, maybe long range even, if you come up against somebody who knows how to tap fire successfully, you are dead, and you have no time to react to it. They give you lots of these abilities, like your grappling hook, like a stim pack, like the ability to turn a player into a ghost and have like a hologram run around. And they do this to try and counteract the combat that you'll be encountering. But you don't have the time to pull that button, because the second somebody shoots at you, you are instantly dead, and you have very little say in how you can respond to that. In Titanfall 1, you could move quickly, you could bounce around the map, and you could stop players from killing you in such a quick succession. In Titanfall 2, you were unable to move around the map, and the time to kill is so quick that you have no time to react. And because of that, there really is no skill gap. It feels a lot like Call of Duty. At the moment, in sort of like Black Ops 3, for example, the second somebody sees you, you're pretty much dead. In fact, Black Ops, that's even slightly unfair to Black Ops 3, because in Black Ops 3, they actually have a slower time to kill than Titanfall 2. And, you know, in Black Ops 3, you can bounce around and slide and do things that get you into cover quite quickly, whereas in Titanfall 2, the maps are really open, there's minimal cover, and jumping around is just going to get you shot slightly elsewhere in a different position, and your body will probably fall elsewhere. And it's just incredibly sad to see, because we wanted Titanfall 2 to be Titanfall 1 enhanced, but Titanfall 2 is in fact Titanfall 1 halved and turned into a first-person shooter that more resembles a Call of Duty franchise like Advanced Warfare. And I feel like that's a very unfortunate step in the wrong direction. A few other gripes I have is the fact that literally nobody uses anything beyond the assault rifle, because all of the other weapons are completely useless. The LMG is slow firing and inaccurate, the sniper rifles simply aren't fast enough to catch up to players who are darting around the map at speed, and the SMGs are lackluster at range. And considering most of your engagements are at medium range, if you come up against somebody using an assault rifle, you've got half a second to try and shoot back or you're gone for. And that really doesn't assist the current situation it's in. More importantly, the abilities they have, a large majority of people are quite simply using the grappling hook, because traversing the actual maps themselves are pretty much non-existent. You just use a grappling hook because that's the best way to get around, because wall running isn't really a thing anymore. It isn't all doom and gloom, and I know this has been incredibly harsh on Titanfall 2, but we need to be harsh during a technical test, and of course, a lot of this can change. Now, the problem at the moment is that the map design does not suit the movement that they're trying to facilitate. The gunplay does not support the movement that they're trying to facilitate either, because the movement isn't there. The gunplay is supposed to complement the movement, and the movement is supposed to complement the gunplay. But at the moment, none of that is in the game. There is no complementing of any region, and it seems that everything is its own standalone. Your movement is standalone, your gunplay is standalone, your Titan gameplay is standalone, and none of them are interconnected as they previously were before, and it really obliterates the sense of cohesion that Titanfall 1 gave to us. So what should they do? If it was me, I would delay the game. I would imminently delay the game for a good few months and release it in early 2017. First and foremost, at the moment Titanfall 2 lacks any kind of character that would make it even remotely appealing, and that makes it even worse considering releases a week after Battlefield 1, and a good percentage of Battlefield players will be Titanfall players, and that market cannibalization which they're going for to try and sort of beef up their sales is not going to work in their favour, because in actuality it's just going to critically damage Titanfall 2's sales considering the current state that it's in. So delay it for a few months. Redesign the maps to suit the movement system you're trying to make, because at the moment the maps are 100% designed for grappling hooks and not designed for anything else. They're designed for pretty much a bit of wall running here and there and some sliding. And finally, rejig your weapon system and the way that you spawn Titans in. Titans should be sequential and periodic, they shouldn't have to be earned. And secondly, weapons should be balanced and all have their own benefits. At the moment, as an assault rifle is the only way forward. These are some gripes that can be fixed quite easily, but there have been some clear design decisions in the way the maps have been made, in the way how gameplay flows, that really damages Titanfall 2 as a game, and I feel as though a delay is the only way forward to make it a successful title, because Titanfall as a franchise is a very, very full of potential, and we really should just be recognizing that. So guys, I hope you agree with this video today. If you don't, please leave a comment in the section below. I'd love to discuss Titanfall 2 with you guys. This is just my opinion as well, and of course this is an opinion based on a technical test, so, you know, a lot can change, and I've called out a lot of details here, and I've made a lot of criticisms, but that by no means rubbishes Titanfall 2 as a game, because it can be successful, and it has the potential to be successful. It just needs to change in a few dimensions and look at its predecessor to realize where it should be at. So, like I said, if you've got any comments or discussion to make in the comment section below, please let me know and we'll discuss it together. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you again soon in another video.